Welcome to Hardwood History, our weekly breakdown of basketball culture, focusing on college stories and bouncing around to all our interests. Let's get started. I'm Aaron Meyer, hosting this week, and I've got a guest on the line. I've got Joe Recchio, works for the NBA, but he's going to be helping us talk college basketball today mostly, but we'll bounce around to the little NBA stories as well. But let's start with the top 25. I think probably the Gonzaga-Duke game is the biggest news story, with just all the future NBA players and just Coach K's last season, all that. What'd you think of the game?
I did watch it, and I was impressed by Duke a lot, actually. I was kind of wondering how they would recover from last year, really having a down year. And the recruits they brought in are definitely the real deal. You can see that. And some of these other guys have improved a lot. Mark Williams has improved a lot for them.
Yeah, looked
really good. And definitely gave Timmy a lot of trouble, and Holmgren, same thing. So I think Duke is definitely legit this year. But at the same time, Gonzaga will probably lose one or two games along the way. This might be the only game they lose. They're super talented.
Probably. Super talented. They looked awesome against UCLA. And they had their moments there at the end. Timmy hesitated just for a second, probably because of Williams, and missed that shot that could have pulled it a little closer. He had, there's foul trouble, which in college basketball always tends to dictate things as well. I wanted to ask you, just related to this game, are you surprised there hasn't been more fanfare about Coach K in his last season? Because I feel like it's not been as hyped. Like, as an IU fan, we still talk about the end of Coach Knight's tenure, we're 20 years past it now and still talk about it. And it doesn't feel like there's been all that much fanfare about the winningest coach of all time in his last season.
Yeah, I think it's because some people, I think, it's not real to them yet, right? Because it's like, we got a whole season to go still. He's going to have 20, 30 games, whatever, to play still. And I think once it gets down to March, the reality is going to set in for a lot of people that this is going to be it. And, the guy had an amazing career. He is, I think, the greatest college basketball coach ever. Maybe you could argue he's the greatest basketball coach ever in some ways. I just think it's not real for people yet. And I think that's anytime you have, when you announce that far out that you're going to retire, it's a lot of times guys will say, oh, I'm going to retire. It's towards the end of the season. And they kind of say, well, these last 10 games are going to be it for me. And then that's, he kind of gave you that year buffer. So I think it's just not real to some people yet.
Yeah, but I'm expecting like the Kareem rocking chair that he gets at every game to be.
I think you'll see that more with the ACC probably. I think you'll see that. Yeah.
Maybe the last time like that last Duke North Carolina game. That makes sense. What do you think about John Shire as the replacement? Do you remember him as a player?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, great shooter in a long line of great Duke shooters. Was kind of like the JJ Redick light. He wasn't as good as Redick, but he was really good still. And he's been on that staff for a while now, and it doesn't surprise me. They're going with somebody. He's only in his mid-30s probably.
I think he's 33.
Yeah, so it makes sense because they're looking to somebody who's young, who they think could be the coach of this team for the next 30 years. And obviously Coach K has a lot of confidence in him to instill him in that position. So I think it's the right move. Keep it in-house too. Keep it a guy who's a Duke alum, understands the program, understands everything about the school, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was very successful, based off how Duke goes.
Seems like he's got the right demeanor to fit in there. What do you think about the rest of the team? So we've talked about Mark Williams. We'll get to Paolo Banchero here in just a minute. But who else on Duke stood out to you or has stood out to you in the first few games?
William Moore has definitely improved, and it's nice to see a guy actually stay at Duke now past sophomore year, because Duke has become one of those one and done schools in some way. So it was nice to see a kid stick around. He's a junior now, and he's definitely improved overall. He's a better free throw shooter. He was knocking down free throws. The last couple of games I've seen him play, he's knocking down all his free throws. He's definitely more of a complete player. Jeremy Roach, I like him too. He's very steady. He's not flashy, but he's very steady. They're just and even like the guys that have been like Baker, he's been there for, it feels like forever, but and he doesn't have a huge role, but you put him in, he's going to knock down shots. He's been there. He's done it before. They're just they're a very well balanced team this year. I feel like in a sense they got some really good freshmen, but they got some better upperclassmen, which they haven't had in the last couple of years. And same thing with Kentucky, even too. You're seeing now Kentucky's got an upperclassman team this year, and look at the difference. You're not struggling out of the gate. You're not, trying to find your chemistry. You're definitely Kentucky's going to be a team too that plays better this year because they're more upperclassmen, and I think you're seeing that with Duke too.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Let's finish though by talking about the young guys as we're talking about them. You've got Bonchero and Keels. I got a quote by Keels. I love this. He says, "Y'all are gonna be happy. Y'all are gonna see we're gonna win a lot of games. We ain't gonna disappoint y'all. You can throw last season out the window. That will never happen again."
I mean,
love it. Love a young man's confidence. Right?
I mean, yeah,
you cannot disappoint in that.
I mean, if you think about it, in our lifetime, Duke was bad twice. It was last year, and I think it was '95 when they were pretty bad. It was after they had lost Grant Hill. And it was like the Cherokee Parks year, and Capel was coming along, but they were I think they were under 500 that year. They're really never bad. So last year was, not the norm for them. And Keels, he's built like a truck, that kid. So he really is. I mean, he is built he doesn't look like an 18-year-old, put it that way. And he's a very talented player too. So I think Duke's got a real good shot this year, a real good shot finally. It feels like the last couple of years, maybe they were around, but they weren't the powerhouse they usually were. And this year, I feel like they are back to being what they were.
It does seem like that. The team we focused on last week, Memphis, tough loss there to Iowa State. They got smoked by them. Freshmen really looked like freshmen in that. Have you got a chance to watch Memphis yet?
Yeah, I have. And Durden and Bates are both obviously going to be top 10 picks. I mean, again, Durden's another one like Keels where he's built not like an 18-year-old. He is a scary, imposing guy. And obviously Bates, I think, is super talented, and I think will transition to the next level fine. They're the same thing, though. They have a couple more upperclassmen than they usually do. So I think they're going to be a little better than maybe the last couple of years. I just think that it's a learning curve for some of these young guys, and this is the time to get it out, right? You can play your non-conference schedule. You play some tough teams. Ohio State's not a slouch by any means. I'm sorry, Iowa State's not a slouch by any means. So,
But it looks good.
Yeah, they did look good. And they always have a decent program. They produce, actually, if you look back in the last couple of years, they produce a lot of NBA players, and they're a pretty solid, school. So get it out of your system now. Memphis also doesn't play in the toughest conference, so I think once their conference comes around, they'll start kind of asserting their dominance over everybody, and they're going to be in the top 15, top 20 all year. So I'm not really worried about them. It's just, it's the growing pains of having.
How far can they get? Yeah.
It's going to depend. I mean, like you said, with these younger guys, it depends on the chemistry a lot of times. You see Kentucky when they had all these freshman teams. I always found it was funny. Kentucky would have these freshman teams. They would struggle early in the year, and then they would, as the year would go on, they'd start to play better. And then if they got in the tournament, they would always make noise because then the chemistry kind of came together at that point. So I think Memphis might be in the same position now where it's like once that chemistry kind of comes together, they're going to be okay.
That's interesting. You could say that too about the freshmen at Kentucky or Memphis because they might know. It's almost like every year is their senior year too because they know they're
exactly.
It's like we got to do it. There's a feeling that we got to do it now.
Yeah.
And that can come together as the season goes on. Okay, our story of the week this week. The World of Five Star comes out this week. So I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'll link this in the show notes. We did a podcast with PRC and Ali Danois, who wrote the bookazine that Slam put out last year. I think it's probably still available, though. I'll check that out, and if I can find the link, I'll put that in there as well. But just tells the story of this famous basketball camp that's basically the forefather of every basketball camp ever. And you mentioned experience with the ABCD camp. Tell people who don't know what that is, and then we'll get into the five-star stuff a little bit as well.
So the ABCD camp used to take place up in Teaneck and Fairleigh Dickinson, up in New Jersey, where I'm from, and me and a couple of my friends used to go almost every year for a couple of years there. But it was at a really good time because I was in high school at the time, but I went in '01 where the LeBron Lenny Cook battle took place, and I had never heard of LeBron before that. I knew who Lenny Cook was because he's from Jersey, and he was super talented. But this kid LeBron shows up as a sophomore, and I mean, people were blown away by what they were seeing, and he really dominated Lenny Cook that time. And that was my first introduction to him, really. And I just remember going there, just seeing so many different guys, so many different coaches. I mean, the place was littered with coaches. I remember seeing Calipari there, and I saw Patino there, and then I would run into former NBA players. Like I remember seeing BJ Armstrong there, who ended up, I think, becoming an agent, I believe now. So like So running into a ton of players, to see Antoine Walker there, all these guys watching, and it was always packed. It was a great atmosphere because there was just games going on everywhere. And the LeBron one definitely sticks out to me though because I had never heard of him really. I mean, I've heard the name, but like I never saw him. I didn't really know what all the hype was about. And then you watch him playing, like, all right, I get it. Like this guy's far and away better than everybody already, and he really did make made Lenny Cook look bad in some ways. And it was like, oh, it was the realization, like, yeah, Lenny's really good, but this guy LeBron's on a different level. And I think those camps meant a lot to those guys back then because that was a coming out party for LeBron in some ways. And I think for a lot of those kids, it was a good thing. It was a good way to test yourself against guys that you normally wouldn't play against. You playing guys across the country and seeing kind of where you really stand, in the grand scheme of things.
That's a good way to put it. I think what people don't realize is that basketball has not always been the 365 sport that it was. And especially if you go back to the 5-star era, like it just shut down. Like basketball season was over. That's it. Like a lot of guys would play other sports or whatever, but there wasn't this constant training. You didn't have like instructional videos online. No one had their, YouTube highlight clips. So you're right. That's the only place you could see it. In 5-star, like invented station work. Bobby Knight is showing up at 5-star basketball camp, creating stations where players are working on. You've got Rick Pitino, Roy Williams, John Thompson, every the who's who of coaches, because again, for them in the summertime, they didn't have a way to make additional money. They're not millionaires like they are now. They had a real off season, and they're like, well, what do I do during the off season to kind of supplement my income? And because they're just like loved basketball too, so they're going to get involved with basketball, and they gathered the best players in the country, including some Michael Jordan clips that are going to be pretty interesting. And then they had the guys just working with each other. I think there is it might be Lenny Cook or somebody like that. Len Bias is who's the famous picture is Michael Jordan kind of jumping center with Len Bias. So just a bunch of stories that are going to come out of that. And of course, 1999, I've got my 5-star shirt on. They got the sweatshirts too, so you can represent once you've learned the story of 5-star. But pretty amazing basketball camp back in the day.
Yeah, it was just really, it's before the AAU times really, and the, where you were playing against everybody, and you were also too. I mean, now you see a lot of these guys; they know each other their whole lives. They're friends, right? All of them, and it's kind of like a lot of times it was their first. They go to these camps, ABCD or 5-stars, their first introduction to somebody that they had heard about, but never really got a chance to play against or get to know them. And I was a big lover of those kind of things because again, just bringing together a lot of guys that you normally wouldn't see together. Seeing guys being put on the same team at ABCD camp, and then kind of seeing how the chemistry is. It was a really cool thing, and I wish these things were more prevalent now. It wasn't so much just AAU and stuff like that, but it was just great for the time.
Well, you said that, and it really is like ABCD. I remember reading about T-Mac and just one dunk that he had in the ABCD camp. I don't even remember who it was over, but that was kind of his introduction to the scene, and such small moments could mean so much at the time. So that one battle, because there weren't those opportunities. I don't know if it's better or worse, because maybe you overemphasize that time over being able to see a player a bunch, and could make you make more mistakes. But there was an excitement, the unknown of it, and then just being able to see it for that one instance during that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I guess maybe today it's almost like an overexposure, and we get to criticize people because we see them so much, and we get to pick them apart so much. But it's like when LeBron played against Lenny Cook, it was like the first time they ever really matched up. And I don't think they ever matched up really again after that. Maybe they did at another camp, but LeBron got his one up on Lenny Cook, and Lenny Cook had no real opportunity to ever get that back. So, maybe it was better because you got that one chance, and if you shined, and you looked great. And then that was kind of the lasting impression everybody had of you.
He's waiting for that rec league.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get to our name, image, likeness story. So I've got a couple of them in there. The first one I was going to hit you with. I love the creativity that's starting to come out because it's such a a broad rule. There was a story about the Oregon Ducks having their own Airbnbs now that they're renting out. So they're like designing it, and then they get a portion of the proceeds. So I do love the creativity that's coming out about that. What do you think about the NIL stuff so far from what you've seen?
I love it because it's long overdue. You know, I can understand people not wanting the universities to pay the players themselves, but at the end of the day, not being able to make money off your own image is insane. You know, like with all the opportunities out there, especially nowadays for these kids. I mean, the fact that you couldn't have a YouTube channel and make money off it. Essentially, you couldn't you couldn't have a Twitch channel. You couldn't have these things it was easy ways for these kids to make money to help them, while they're in college. And the fact that they were trying to shut down everything. I saw Kofi Coburn got suspended for the first 3 games. He was like one of the last guys that did something that was against the rules, and they had to get that last suspension in real quick. But I'm happy to see that these guys are getting this opportunity now because when you're in college, when you're playing a sport, you don't have time to work. You're playing basketball, you're in it all the time, and not like other college students who have opportunities to go work and do things and make money. So if it's any way to bring in a little money for these guys, and I think I'm not going to say it's totally going to nip the recruiting violations in the butt, but it may help a little bit in the sense that these guys can make money other ways now. They don't need to take a car or take money in a duffel bag from a booster or something. So it may help the recruiting process a little bit too. But I love it. Any way you can find a way to make money. If it's an Airbnb, go nuts. Make money off an Airbnb. I don't care. Do whatever you got to do, man. Try to get it while you can. Because look, a lot of these guys aren't going to play professionally. So if you can make money now based off who you are and where you're at, you got to do it.
Yeah. I think that my only hesitation has been just the kind of haphazard way that it's being implemented. Like I said, I love the creativity in it. And, I saw another story that was a kind of a feel-good one where a guy donated his NIL money to give away turkeys this week. So that was pretty awesome to see. There is this weird crossover, though, now that's happening, too, as part of the ruling. The schools can pay students directly. So NIL is obviously separate. So the coaches can't be in on the negotiations. The school isn't representing them. But now if they're academically eligible, so Mississippi State was the first one that went with this, but players can receive a maximum of $3,500 per semester for remaining academically eligible. So now students are going to get direct payments from the school as well. Do you think that's the first step in a direction for schools paying these guys, or is it just they're hoping that will I don't know,
incentivize
be enough to calm things down, and it'll just kind of stay how it is with NIL and the minor payments.
So wait, so the Mississippi State thing is if they remain academically eligible, they're paid a certain amount.
That's right. They're going to get $3,500 now, and in the spring they'll get another $3,500 every athlete. Okay, so it's kind of across the board.
Okay, I mean I don't hate that in the sense that it also incentivizes them to do well in school. And for the guys that are going to be there, the one and dones, they don't have much incentive to do well in school because they're not going to be there, But if you're a guy that's going to be a 3-4 year guy, I mean, it definitely incentivizes you to make sure you're up on your academics, right? So I don't hate that. I actually think that's a good idea. It's a good way to pay them. It's not a crazy amount of money. It's enough to get by and get some things you need and be able to go out once in a while and do things. So I actually kind of like that because $3,500 is a reasonable amount to me. And again, if it's incentivizing people to do well in school, I mean, which is only going to benefit them in the long run when they get out of college and they're not playing professionally anywhere, I actually can get on board with that. But it's a matter of limiting it to a certain amount of money. I think some schools might try to get a little crazy with it, or may try to pay football or basketball more because they're worth more to the university, and then you can get into a whole thing with that then. So I don't hate that idea, but it could be a slippery slope.
Yeah. I just wonder if that is the kind of they're going to try to hold the line with that, or if that is just kind of opening the floodgates move.
It could be, and that's kind of the issue again. If a Kentucky comes in and says, "Well, we're going to pay our basketball players, 5 times more than we're going to pay our tennis players or our whatever," then yeah, it could start spiraling out of control, and that's kind of what I worry about. I don't want to see college basketball become like professional basketball, right? That's kind of what I worried about. That's what I worried about with the transfer rule this year, too, with everyone's immediately eligible. I mean, you saw the transfer portal go crazy this year. Being able to transfer anywhere you want, be immediately eligible, And it's almost like free agency for college basketball, right? So you worry that if some schools are going to pay more than others, well, I might go transfer to that school because I'm going to make more money over there. And then it's starting to become like free agency in basketball, and that's what you got to worry about.
Yeah, but on the flip side, you see programs that can turn themselves around that are these, high profile. So a coach leaves, let's say, because coaches can leave whenever they want. In the past, or a coach is fired, that meant like basically you're out in the wilderness for a couple of years. Like good luck. But you've seen a bunch of these programs like Rick Pitino has turned around Iona. Now. They just got a big win.
Big win.
Talk about out of the wilderness. He was in Greece there coaching, and he's back now and turned a program that has been an obscurity for I don't know how long back into someone who's in the national consciousness at least, and he's done it through transfer.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, the transfer thing, I do find you can turn your team with transfers, and I think some teams have done it well. Texas has done it well in the last couple of years where they got a lot of transfers, but it keeps them consistently good. And Texas did it this year too. They got a lot of transfers. Pitino with Iona is crazy. It's the fact that he took that job and has made them a viable program. We actually have to play them coming up, and it's definitely not a team that I'm going to just say we can just, walk over, because they're a good team, and it shows you what a good coach can do for a program,
No doubt. Yeah, he's a master for all his faults.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever questioned his coaching.
Definitely not.
All right, let's do a little NBA check-in. I've got, my latest Bulls talk. Although they lost. My timing has been horrible with my questions. Every time I come with a Bulls question, then they lose the night before. So they lost to the Heat. So I'm going to go with this instead. What's going on with the East? Like, we've got Brooklyn that's still up there, although they lost to the Suns last night. Who's good in the East? Because it seems like the whole conference is pretty good. But who are the best teams? Because I don't think I could tell you right now.
It's definitely better top to bottom than it's been in a long time. I think you have like 12 teams that are all like, you could say, okay, those teams can make the playoffs. The only two teams, like off the top of my head, the only two teams where I go, okay, are my Magic, because they're terrible, and the Pistons, who are pretty bad. Those teams are out of it, right? But other than that, you look at everybody else and you go, okay, I could see this team getting in the play-in. I could see this team getting in the playoffs. I think Milwaukee, when they're fully healthy, is the best team still, just because, you saw it last year when they're
better than Brooklyn.
I do think, because Brooklyn without Kyrie is definitely a different team. And I think Harden has not been the same this year. He's playing better now.
Is he out for the year? I mean, what do we think?
I don't think that vaccine mandate's changing anytime soon. So I don't know. It's going to be about whether he swallows his pride or not. He's the kind of guy that I don't think will. He's just that.
He's just going to sit for. But
I could see it. He's that kind of guy where he'll just dig in his heels. I think the more you tell him he's got to do something, the less likely he's going to do it. So I think that's the other thing. If people
doesn't he feel a loss though of an entire year of his prime? Like, he's not getting those back either.
I agree. And a guy who's injury prone too.
Not getting the vaccine, yeah, but he's not exactly he's not like 22 where you could be like, oh, this is whatever. I'll just be 23 now.
Yeah,
like, he's what 30.
He's 29 right now. I think he's actually not 30 yet, which is crazy.
Yeah, but close. Yeah. And if you're a small point guard
who's injured a lot,
who's injured a lot, it's not like he's got 10 more years.
For sure.
In him, you know what I mean? Like, this is it. Like, he's, and it also, for his next contract, I mean, who signs him? Like,
I don't know.
If you're a team, what do you, like, seriously, because you hear that all the time, and I know someone would, but it's sort of like Ben Simmons, again, tremendous talent. You hope that you get him in the door and you can establish a relationship that Philly didn't, and maybe that's different, but I mean, could it get any better for him than it is in Brooklyn? I know the vaccine mandate notwithstanding, but there were some oddities even before that. I mean, he's got his buddy Durant that brought him in. They got Harden. I mean, what else could he possibly?
I know you look at it and you go, like, what's really the problem here? I mean, I think he's his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. I mean, he is. Whatever his mindset is in a lot of things, he digs his heels, and like I said, he's I'm right and I'm gonna hold to it. And like, part of me appreciates that about somebody, right? Like, if they hold to whatever their value is, but at the same time, it's clearly hurting that team. Brooklyn's, like the Lakers, Brooklyn's old. They have an old roster.
Yeah.
The bench is very old. I don't know how much Millsap has left. You know, some of these guys, Patty Mills has played well. Aldridge has looked pretty good. Blake hasn't looked the same as he did last year. Durant's Durant. He's going to be fine. I'm not really ever worried about him. Yeah, but I think Milwaukee is still the team to beat. If Philly gets Embiid back, I know he's back from COVID now. If he's healthy, Tyrese Maxey's played really well for them. Yeah. So they've found some guys that have played really well for them. They could make some noise for sure. They got to get past this Ben Simmons thing, though. They got to just, at some point, make a trade and move on. Whatever. I know they want to get, like, you know, a great value back, but at the end of the day, it's hurting them more to have him, I think, at this point. He's such a distraction. I think it's distracting the rest of the players in some ways, too. They're constantly being asked about it. I think it's time to, like, whatever a good, you know, solid deal comes across your table, just make it. Just move on. And, you know, get what you can, a couple draft picks, maybe a young player or two. Don't expect an all-star in return because I don't think you're getting that. I
can't do it though.
I know.
They're like Kyrie. They dug themselves in, and they can't accept.
I know, that. And that's the problem. I love there was the rumor a couple weeks ago that the Sixers were going to get Jaylen Brown back in a deal, and I was like, what planet are you guys? You're not getting Jaylen Brown back from the Celtics. But yeah, I think in the East, Milwaukee is still the team to beat. But after that, it gets muddy because, you know, the Knicks started off hot, then they've kind of faded since. The Bulls started off really hot, they've faded a little bit since. You know, you have a couple teams there that could definitely make some noise, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be like Milwaukee versus somebody in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm not sure who that is yet.
Who's your top three?
Milwaukee, Brooklyn. I want to say Chicago, but man, the more I watch Chicago, I go, they don't have a great bench. You know, Caruso's played well. I'll give him that. He's played pretty well off the bench. Yeah. They got to get Kobe White back. Maybe he would be a good guy off the bench too for them.
He's played okay. Yeah. His first.
Losing Patrick Williams definitely hurt. You know, again, they're talented enough, right? They're with Levine, DeRozan, Ball, and Vucevic. You'd be like, okay, this team could do something, but they're not consistent enough yet. And I think.
What about getting crazy and doing something like Patrick Williams and Colby White or somebody or one of the other guards for Ben Simmons?
I got to be honest.
Bulls take a swing at him because they need another big guy.
I think Ben Simmons, no matter where he goes, is going to have to play like power forward probably. But I think if you put him at that power forward spot, his stat line is eerily similar to Draymond Green's in that way, right? And he could be that defensive, you know, point forward kind of guy. He doesn't have to be the point guard necessarily. But defensively, he's unbelievable defensively. And people don't give him enough credit for how good he is defensively. I think he would make the Bulls a lot better. I always said, too, like, if the Sixers would ever be willing to do it, you know, a Kyrie for Ben Simmons trade would make a lot of sense for both teams, too. But I don't think that would ever happen because Kyrie's, you know, is what he is. Yeah. But, yeah, I think Ben Simmons on the Bulls would actually make a lot of sense. You could slot him right at the four, and I think he fits real well, actually.
Yeah. Would Philly do it? What would they want? I mean, Patrick. It's tough giving up on a young guy who's shown a lot of promise, but obviously you got to do that if you're getting a guy like Simmons back. Who else does Philly want? I mean, what else?
Kobe White would be a good piece. He's a good combo guard. I do think they really love Tyrese Maxey in Philly though, and he has played very well. So I think they're kind of ready to go with him. His problem is he's more of a scorer than a distributor, so they don't really have a distributor type point guard. But Kobe White's not really a distributor per se either. But I mean, Philly, Patrick Williams, Kobe White's a good start, right? Probably have to throw some picks in there. But I think for you guys, for the Bulls, you guys are with DeRozan on your team and Vucevic on your team, like you're kind of in a win now mode, right? Because those guys are getting older, and if it means sacrifice to move, exactly,
go for it because
to move forward.
The East is open right now. Like it's there for the taking, especially if Kyrie doesn't come back. Like
absolutely.
I mean, we're saying that you know Milwaukee, you know, when they get healthy, but maybe they don't. You know, that doesn't always happen. Like they were all really healthy last year. Like sometimes you just don't stay healthy for 2 straight years. Like that's not a weird thing. It happened to the Warriors.
Oh yeah,
it happens to lots of teams.
I think I mean you're seeing that with the Warriors now. They are just the cream of the crop again right now. And don't have, you know, Klay Thompson or James Wiseman yet, so we'll see when they come back.
Exactly. I mean, what Phoenix has won 16 straight, and they're still not in first place.
I'm in the West. I think it's a little clearer because the West. I mean, I wouldn't say completely clear because you can't count the Lakers out, even though they have the oldest roster in the league. And
get out of here! The Lakers.
I'm sorry. Again, I'm not a fan of LeBron James, but with him on the team, I can never count them out ever. And I've learned that. You know, look, do I think the Lakers will end up in the playoffs?
Out of the count them out of the playoffs or out of the championship race?
Out of the playoffs, definitely not
have
counting out of the playoffs.
You don't have it. You don't have the
No. I think the Western Conference Finals, to me, I can't. The way after what I've seen this year, if it's not the Warriors and Suns in the Western Conference Finals, then I'd be shocked. Because the Suns are a machine, and the Warriors. I mean, Steph Curry could win an MVP again. Probably should have won it last year. Should probably win it again this year. And they are on fire right now. They are really fun to watch again.
Awesome. All right, let's finish up with this. We're gonna draft something.
Okay.
The top 5 coaching jobs in college basketball. I've got mine. If you want a minute to think about it, but if you got
Like jobs that are open or jobs that are.
Oh, just in general. If you are offered, you get to pick your coaching jobs. Whatever. You're gonna go 1 year at each school. What are your top 5?
I'm big on prestige and history of university, right? So for me, Indiana would definitely be one of them because to me, if you can get that school back to national championship level, that's huge. There's certain jobs where you look at like you take that job and if you win with that job, like you're immortalized forever. I feel like the Knicks and the NBA would be that job. If you go to the Knicks and you win a title with the Knicks, you are forever looked at as an all-time great. And I think Indiana's in college would be that school because while they're good, they haven't been to that next level in a while. And I think that is a thing that they're really we need Indiana to be good again, to be a top level school because I think college basketball is just better when they are,
I love it.
So I think
you're speaking my language. Keep going.
So I definitely think that's a job where you go, okay, I would take that job and try to make that, a top 10 program again.
Okay. What else you got?
Go ahead. Give me one of yours. What do you got? Cause I'm still thinking.
All right. Well, I'm taking Kansas as my first pick. I mean, I think it's set up to, even now if you're thinking, Bill Self steps aside, like he's probably one of those guys that he'll be there for a little while, but it's just, again, history, Naismith is there. Fogg. You got Allen Fieldhouse, which is incredible. They're in kind of an area where they don't have a ton of rivals, which I think is important too. I like being in an area of the country where it's like I can dominate this area of the country and then get a few guys from East Coast or West Coast or whatever as add-ons. So that'd be my first pick.
All right, I could understand that. UCLA is another one, although they have kind of gotten back to where they should be now, finally. I love the hire of Mick Cronin when they did hire him because I as a Big East guy, I was watching him a lot with Cincinnati, and he's a great coach. So that's another job. Again, I'm big on getting the prestigious back to being prestigious and just to get UCLA back to that same level where they belong. As every year they're a national title contender. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see those blue blood programs be good always. I don't like when they drop off and then you're talking about, UCLA is the middle of the road in the Pac-12. It's like it doesn't seem right to me, So I think that's definitely another job where I would go with.
You get to live in LA too.
It can't be that bad.
All right, I got my next one. Actually, would be an up and comer. I'm thinking outside the box. I'm going to say Texas. I think that Austin is just one of those cities in the country, probably one of the fastest growing cities in the country. You got Tesla moving there. If you could get a national championship there, I think you could really set up like the next 20 years of college basketball. Really change the focal point to the middle of the country to that area. Maybe steal a little shine from Kansas. So I'm gonna take Texas as my.
I could understand that. The Shaka Smart thing didn't work out there, which is kind of surprising. And now he goes to Marquette and he's got them playing great basketball right now, which with a whole
that's his fit though.
It is,
right?
And it's funny because Marquette literally has 2 players back from last year. The whole team's different, and they've come out playing very well. So he's doing a great job already there. But yeah, I can understand Texas too. Same thing. And but just certain schools when they're good in certain sports, it just makes it better. Texas is like a football, basketball. When they're good in both, I mean, it's so much better. It really is.
Yeah, so much better. All right, I've got then Kentucky.
Yeah, it's an easy one.
I can't not. I mean, Cal's got to go at some point, and I think that we just talked to their beat writer. He's been there for 41 years, which is so crazy to think about. My whole lifetime, he's been the beat writer for Kentucky. So he started with, Joby Hall, and has seen every coach since then. And it was just wild to hear some of the stories from Eddie Sutton to the '96 championships team to that 2012 team, and they've encompassed everything about college basketball, right? And they've got no pro sports in this.
That's the other
state to
thing too,
compete
yeah.
with. So just like they're an institution. So I think that the next person to get that is set up pretty
I
well.
got another one for you that I
Okay.
St. John's. When St. John's is good, it's better for my area especially. It's just, when St. John's is bad, it's terrible. They've done a good job of since turning over from Chris Mullen to they're becoming a team to talk about again finally. And but that's a job I feel like if you win at that job in New York City, especially you're playing in the Garden a lot, like that's a great job to take probably.
All right, I've got two to I want to see which one you would take over the other. Because one, Syracuse, he's got to go eventually, although maybe he's got the clock on Krzyzewski and wants to see when he can pass him. Or would you rather take Gonzaga? So kind of two interesting spots, landing spots. Which one would you take? You're an East Coast guy, so maybe.
But Gonzaga. The funny thing about Gonzaga is, for as long as they've been good, they've never won it, right? So
yeah,
I think getting them over that hump would be a crowning achievement for any coach. Do you think Mark Few's ever going to get one?
I mean, if he doesn't right now, he certainly's got a real shot. He had a real shot, obviously, last year. He was in the national title game, although it looked a little further apart than maybe we thought with how well Baylor played in that game. But it's in one game. It's just hard to tell. I've seen NBA Finals games where there was a blowout in one game, and then the other team wins the series. So it happens. But I think he's got a great shot again this year. There's no reason they couldn't win it. I mean, they looked unbelievable against UCLA, and I thought UCLA was really good.
I think they were better off losing to Duke in the end. You didn't want to go through that undefeated thing again where you get to the national championship, you're undefeated, and then you lose. Get it out of the way now. Get humbled a little bit. But they got three basically All-Americans on that team. I hope they get it because Mark Few's not getting any younger. He's been there for a long time, right? Like it's – and this, like I said, these last 2 years I think have been two of their best, if not their two best teams. So it's like you got to get it now. You got to strike while it's hot because if you don't, I don't know if he's ever going to get over that hump. So I think getting Gonzaga over the hump. Syracuse has been there, done that kind of thing. Getting Gonzaga over that hump, I think, would be something if you're the coach there.
That's great. Yeah, Syracuse is tough, but I think I'd take Gonzaga too. I'd rather be on the West Coast. They seem like they've still got that kind of pipeline out there too. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time today. We're gonna get out of here. Check in with us next week, and maybe we'll have you back on again next week, or if not, soon.
I appreciate it, Aaron. Take it easy.
All right, later, man. All right, sweet. Man. That was good.
Appreciate